Spread eagle for a spin.
Candlepin Stars and Strikes is sponsored in part by Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan. Looks good. Looks good. It's gonna go. It's gonna go. Candlepin Stars and Strikes is produced in conjunction with the New Hampshire Candlepin Bowling Association. And now your hosts, Doug Brown and Dan Murphy.
Hi once again, everybody, and welcome to another Sunday edition of Candlepin Stars and Strikes here on the Winds of New England. I'm Doug Brown along with Dan Murphy, and as always, we're coming to you from Park Place Lanes here in Windham, New Hampshire, and this is week 2 of our second series this year. And last week, well, what do you know? Paul Berger was here, and he won another match, and now today he'll try and make it 2 in a row.
That's right. Last week was Tavernese. This week, Dan LaPlume is here, and another tough opponent for Paul, and unlikely spot for Paul, being in that last position, working his way up.
All right, let's get a look at our 2 bowlers. First of all, our number 5 seed, as we mentioned, got the win last week over Joe Tavernese from Hopedale, Massachusetts, Paul Berger.
Okay, Paul comes in averaging 128, has a high triple of 500, his roll-off score 651.
And last week he rolled a 383 in that victory over Joe Tavernese, so now Paul will try and make it 2 wins in a row. And today he faces our number 3 seed, who hasn't been with us in a couple of years now, but back again from South Lawrence, Massachusetts, Dan LaPlume.
Okay, Dan averaging 125, high triple of 458, his roll-off score was 660.
And since we did not have a winner last week in our bonus ball contest, we will have $110 in the jackpot this week as our barrel fills up even further. We hope we have your postcards. If we don't, we'll tell you how to do that a little bit later on in the show. And we have 3 games of bowling coming up, Paul Berger and Dan LaPlume, and we'll get the match started right after these words. Don't go away. Last week, Paul Berger knocks off number 4 seed Joe Tavernese with that 383. And today, tries for 2 in a row against Dan LaPlume, making a return appearance here. And then the winner of this match gets Dan Broder in the semifinals next week. 2 weeks from today, we'll have our series championship match. Paul Willits, the number 1 seed, will be here for that one against the survivor of these next 2 matches. So Paul Berger set to get us started here this week. Paul started last week's match with 5 consecutive marks, and that was pretty much the lead that he was able to hold throughout.
That's right.
Built up a lead early and was able to hold off Joe Tavernese the rest of the way.
Well, Paul's going to shoot at the 4 horsemen left, plus the 9 and the 10.
Tried to play the head pin along with the 9, didn't quite catch it. And the 10.
That's what he had in mind, I think, for that second ball.
This is Paul Berger's 23rd appearance here on Stars and Strikes. And almost the strike there.
Just the 4 pin left.
And in those previous 22, he now has a record of 15 and 7.
We were talking off the air last week about Paul and his wife, his family, his 2 boys, especially the oldest one, 18. He told me after the last week's show that he's a freshman at University of Massachusetts in Amherst. So seems like only yesterday he was skipping school to watch his dad bowl.
So you're recommending that kids skip school in order to be able to go to college? Is that what you're saying?
That'll be a 9.
Dan LaPlume looking for the mark in his first box. He'll have to settle for the 9 instead.
Just sliding into the channel and coming back out again for the 7 pin.
Dan LaPlume's last visit here was almost 2 years ago, December of 1993. Left-hander right back in the pocket again, another 9 drop. And this time you won't have to worry about the channel, probably.
Well, we hope not.
Dan is a big fan of Candlepin bowling. In addition to being an outstanding bowler, he attends a lot of the tapings here, even the ones that he does not qualify for.
I think he's really eyeing our job.
Could be right.
6 pin drop for Paul. 3, 6, 10, and a 7.
We'll have to explain to him that it's not all glitzy and glamorous like it appears.
Better off out there.
35 through 3 for Paul. We've come to expect,
break.
We've come to expect such spectacular scores from Paul Berger that last week's 383 was just kind of a workmanlike performance. He had 13 marks, but he did start with those 5 in a row, and sometimes the quick start is all you need.
Yeah. Did most of that work in the first 5 boxes. Had 89 pins in the first 5 boxes.
And LaPlume spins one a little bit too much and turns the ball over a little bit.
Yeah, his ball breaks from left to right. Just being a left-hander. He's going to shoot at the 1, 2, and 10, and a couple pieces of wood behind the 1 and the 2.
It's a 9.
35. It's all knotted up after 3 boxes. But now Dan's facing the mark that Paul has in the 4th.
Candlepin Stars and Strikes brought to you by Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan. Come to Salem and save. And on Route 97 Main Street in Salem, New Hampshire, Rockingham Toyota Dodge Nissan. Remember a couple of weeks ago, in case you missed it, I guess if you missed it, you can't remember it, so that's why I'm telling you. Bob Kelly was our first qualifier for the 8th annual Tri-State Megabucks Tournament of Champions. Bob moving into the field with a 4-10, and it was an overtime match, a terrific one, 2 weeks ago against Ron Simino.
Paul tries the diamond leave, the leave that he made in last week's match against Joe Tavernese, but not this time. And he'll take just a 9. Gives him an even 60 after 5 boxes.
Paul had to take care of some house cleaning on lane 31. Now he's ready to throw. It's frightening. You're talking about Paul's 2 sons, and you know, we see these bowlers roll in and out of here every week, and we keep up with their families and so forth. It's frightening to think about how many of these bowlers that we see did not have kids when the show began, and now they, you know, have kids that are in their teens almost.
Let's just forget it.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
Let's not talk about it. I just may have to take a nap before the match is over. Dan LaPlume on lane 32. A little heavy on the head pin. Let's see. A 3, 7, and 10. Wood freezes up against the 3. You might be able to pinch that 3 pin, throw it into the 7.
Oh, yeah, nice shot.
Nice.
Great shot for Dan LaPlume, and certainly worth another look.
There it is. Almost went around that 7. His second mark. Both bowlers having 2 marks, all spares so far.
Dan crosses over into what for him is the Brooklyn side, the 1-3 pocket.
And his ball breaks so sharply at the end that ball didn't do much damage at all, and right to the right sidewall as soon as it hit the head pin. Well, each bowler has 2 marks, 2 spares, as I mentioned, and that's why we have a 2-pin advantage for Paul Berger. Very close match.
Saw that note at the bottom of the screen a moment ago. Paul Berger with a high triple of 500. That was rolled on television. That was a rather historic occasion. Not many people can say that they've rolled a 500, and certainly even fewer can say they've done it on television. In fact, to my knowledge, that's the only one that's ever been rolled on television.
I believe you're right. I think a lot of people can claim they rolled 500, but I think the next question is, well, how many games was that? Because Paul did it in 3.
For 2 in a row? No.
Too sharp on the 6 and 8 pins. Takes out just the 6.
And now the 8 for a 10. And Dan punches out the 1, 8, and 9. Dan from South Lawrence, Mass. Works as a printer for LaPlume Press. Takes a 7. Paul Berger now with a double-digit lead.
There's the pocket that he wants. He really wants that 1, 2, and then the ball cuts through the pins. Got a little better pin action, as you can see. Just the 5 pin left.
And Dan bounces back with the spare, his 3rd. 3 apiece now in the match. Paul Berger in the Brooklyn pocket takes 9, leaving the 3 pin. For the spare.
Still looking for our first strike. Paul certainly would like one right about now. No, just 3.
Kind of a loud 3, though. Just slipped by the head pin again, and Paul had 4 marks here in this first game, but he'll settle for a 120. He had fills of 6, 6, and 3 included on those marks, and that gives Dan LaPlume a chance to pull even here in the final 2, should he put up another mark. Drops 6 on his spare.
Trying to split the 3 and the 6. Got to hurry. No.
Oh, not quite. Tried it the hard way.
Played on the inside, took out the 3, 6, and then all the way across for the 7 and back across, and just missing the 10.
Let's take another look. Wow.
3 pin.
Just missed it twice.
Oh. Now he's within 10 pins of Paul Berger now and has an open frame to work against.
Pretty good looking ball that time, but how about the leave? The 6, 8, and 10. The wood is interesting, though.
I'm afraid that ball might just carry him around the 8 pin, though. Let's see what happens. Nope.
No.
Came up high and took out the 8 and the 10 and left the 6.
So it's a 9 and a 110 for Dan LaPlume. 10 pins the lead for Paul Berger after game 1. We're back in a minute. Our bonus ball contest coming up at the end of the show. Be sure and send in your regular size postcards only. and include your name, your full address, and the number from 1 to 10, the number of pins you think will drop on the bonus ball at the end of the show. Be sure and mail those cards in to Park Place Lanes, Route 28, Windham, New Hampshire, 03087. This week we have $110 in the jackpot. Paul Berger came oh so close to getting us a winner last week. 9-drop for Dan LaPlume to start game 2.
It was funny because you told Paul, now when we come back, Paul, I'm going to have you throw the bonus ball. He says, oh, yeah, I'm going to disappoint another home viewer. And that's exactly what happened.
Spare for Dan.
Kind of talked himself right into that half Worcester.
Yeah, he really did. I think he felt more pressure on that than he did during the match.
Dan opens up with a nice spare. Trailing by 10.
And will he carry the 6? Will he carry the 6th pin? No. The 9 pin will stay up there. And the 10. Each bowler with 4 marks now in this match. All spares. Haven't seen any strikes yet. Almost there.
Usually when you mention it, it happens.
Thought it would work, but seen several 9-drops already, though. Spare for Paul.
Paul covers that 2-pin. Both bowlers with marks up in the first frame.
Candlepin Stars and Strikes, as always, coming to you from Park Place Lanes here in Windham, New Hampshire, which also, incidentally, happens to be the home of another 9-drop. Wow. It's the home of 9-drops. No, it's the home of Willow Tree North Restaurant, located right inside Park Place Lanes. Rodney Cronin and the gang with all the great food, great service, terrific prices. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner available at the Willow Tree North Restaurant. And what else can you say but it's where the crew eats. Home of the 9-drop, though. I like that.
Yeah, that's
somebody
good.
use that, maybe? Oh, there's the first strike.
Home of the strike. Now, there goes my theory about crossing over in the 1-3 pocket for him, but he's nice and tight there. It's not, ball really isn't going away. And he clears the deck for a strike.
Dan takes 3 fairly quick, short steps on his approach. Doesn't cover a lot of ground on the approach to the foul line. Ooh, almost. Trying to cut that 2-pin over into the 6.
Make it a 9 and 52 through 4. Paul Berger working on a string of 2 marks, 2 spares in the first and second frames. Looking for his first strike.
Almost didn't get that 4-pin.
Took a couple hits before it went down.
For the spare, yes.
3 in a row.
Right on top of the 7-pin. Seven spares now for Paul in this match. He has the lead by 13 right now, plus whatever they fill on this mark. Make it another 9-drop. This time the 2-pin. For the spare. 4 spares in a row for Paul Berger to start game 2. Last week he did this in game 1. This time it's the middle game. Paul Berger in the lead. We'll be back in a moment on Stars and Strikes. Back we are on Stars and Strikes. See Dan making his 5th appearance with us. for the 500 record, looking for the strike, and the 5-pin will stay.
That was just about perfect, right in the 1-2 pocket. Of course, I guess perfect would be the strike, but got much closer.
Boy, that wood was right up against the 5-pin, it seemed at first, and now it's getting a little more interesting. Still seems favorably angled toward the 5-pin, so I don't think there's too much of a problem here, but just have to be careful. Whoa, way down low to get it. Dan has marked 3 times here on lane 32 in game 2, I should say. But he has yet to solve this lane 31 in this game. Coming up just short of the head pin, he'll take 7.
The 1, 3, and 6 pins left. Trying to make it 2 in a row.
And does. Very crisply made. His 7th mark. Trying to make up some of this deficit, but Paul Berger's making it tough. 4 spares in a row here in game 2. Oh, this one's going to have to be a good one.
Just 5 on the fill. Triangle to the right. 3, 5, 6, and 9, plus the 7-pin in the left-hand corner.
Oh, my. Oh, my. Great effort. Of course, that would be one of the times where you make the diamond, where you have the extra pin. 10 box, 80 through 5 for Paul Berger, and an even 200 halfway through the match.
This attempt on that spare. Extremely light that time on the head pin.
Thought maybe Paul was going to get the 2-pin out of there. It might be just as well that he didn't. 2, 7, 8, 10. Nope. Well, with these 2 open boxes, Dan LaPlume making up some ground. See the lead 20, and Dan will cut into it further with this fill ball here. He's trailed pretty much the whole way. Paul Berger has not been behind in his 2 weeks on the show here so far. He's been tied a couple of times, but not behind.
Dan dropped 7 on that spare. 1, 3, and 7 pins left. Couple pieces of wood behind the 1 and the 3. Should help him with the 7.
And did he get enough of it?
Not. Oh, my
wow.
goodness! Look at that.
Oh, wow. Oh, jeez. At one point, it looked like it was going to fall over, and then it didn't. It's almost like something was back there holding it up.
96 through 7, though. It's 4 marks this game. 3 spares and a strike.
Full on the head pin this time. Well, Dan got a little break there. Not enough to carry the spare, but and it'll be a 9. So 2 open boxes for Dan LaPlume. And a chance for Paul Berger to increase the lead. Look out, look out. It's a 9 drop.
4, 5, 7 were at one time, and then the 7 pin went down, and 5 for the spare.
Spare number 9. Paul still yet to throw a strike. Well, that was the leave he almost had a moment ago on the other side.
This time there's no wood on the plate at all. It's any help to him. He's going to try to cut the 5 pin on the left-hand side. Can be made.
Oh, my, and he almost made it. Actually, I believe it was the 4, 5, and 7 that he almost had, not the equivalent lead, which would have been the opposite side.
We understood.
You got the idea.
We understood, Doug.
Right, yeah. Pass out translations.
Well, good break off the head pin for Dan LaPlume there. Just the 1 and the 2 pins left. Really down by 21. He wants to put up a couple marks here at the end.
Oh, got one there. This match is still very tight. It's looking a lot like last week right now.
It really is. Just about the same lead for Paul Berger at this point in the match.
Oh, big first ball. Strike on spare.
You gotta watch this one quick. Doesn't last long. Strike on spare. Couldn't happen at a better time for Dan LaPlume.
Dan does not throw the ball particularly hard, but he got a great mix on that ball.
This is 135 plus the 2 bonus balls on the strike.
Pulled that one a little bit too bit. Probably got a little bit pumped up on that ball.
Certainly a little more speed on the ball, and you have the tendency to hang on a little longer. Pull the ball to the right.
Bales out with a 7 and a 142. A 2-game total of 252 for Dan LaPlume. Paul Berger does not have to mark to keep his lead. But if he doesn't mark, the lead will be in single figures. Nope. Nine.
He's on 125, so the lead is back down to the original 10 from the first game. But now he's opposite a strike 7.
Light pocket hit and not a great leave, but there is some wood around for the 4, 7, and 10. Paul's going to have to study this one a bit, I think. Wood coming out, turning. What do you think?
I want it to be a little deeper than that. I would probably say he's got to go left-hand tip of that wood. Yeah, just catch. He missed it. Yeah, so you threw the hands up. You want to catch a little bit of piece of that wood. That would have deflected the ball a little more towards the 7 pin and possibly the wood take the 10.
So it will be a single-digit lead for Paul Berger, 134 and 254. After 2, just a 2-pin lead with 1 game to go. Paul Berger still clinging to the lead, but now just by 2 pins. At one point in that second game, he had a 28-pin lead. But Dan LaPlume put some marks up at the end, including that big spare strike. Speaking of marks, how about that one?
Boy,
he just missed this same spare earlier, and he made the diamond part of it. This time he gets it all.
Just cut a little thinner on the right-hand side that time, and usually that's enough to carry maybe the 7 pin, but then you have to worry about the sleeper, which is the 8 pin in the back. But that was a great spare.
That is 10 spares for Paul today. And wow, I thought he was going to get a 9 drop there. Instead, it's the 7-10.
He wants the 7 pin clean here if he's going to turn that wood towards a 10. Ooh.
Wow. And it's a $9.
Well, he did what he wanted to do. Put at least 1 mark up. I'm sure he wanted 2 of them, but at least 1.
Dan LaPlume with a great pocket hit. And he leaves the 6-9.
Piece of wood out in front should be no problem if he's a red line or or to the right of it.
Right on it.
He matches the mark put up by Paul Berger, so I'll realize right now Dan's not going to go away today.
Nope.
He's here for the long run. Two
Another,
pins.
got another Dan coming in next week. Dan Broder, our number 2 seed.
Oh, he's right in the pocket again.
Oh, big 9.
Kicks out the 9 pin, leaves himself the 7. Gains 1 in count. Lead is now down to 1. This for the spare and the possible lead. Oh, same thing he did. That is the equivalent to the 10 pin for a right-handed bowler. It's probably the most difficult pin to go after. He's got it right on it this time. We got an even match, I believe, if my addition is right.
Your addition is perfect. Dead even with 8 boxes to go. Paul Berger almost with strike number 1.
Can't throw a much better ball than that and not get a strike. Just killed those other 9 pins. It just flew out of there.
Gets the single. 11 spares in 23 boxes. That's just under 50%, but Paul finds himself in a tight match right now. Six is the fill.
I always say the magic number, you get around 15 marks, you're around 400 for the triple, depending on your fills, and minus any bad boxes.
Paul has had some trouble with fills today. He's had a 3, 5, 3 6s now, and there's a 7 box, leaving him at 50 through 4.
Dan LaPlume did it last time. He wants to put at least 1 mark up. And he got a big break off the head pin. If that 2 pin falls, he had a chance for a strike. Both bowlers realize they need to convert these legitimate spare leaves. Just the 1 and the 2 pins.
No, just missed it.
Left itself short.
Instead, it's a 10. Paul clinging to the lead by 6. A big opportunity here for Dan with a 7 box up. Really turned that one over and got a big break again. Look at this. Oh, my word. The 7 and the 8. Well, he was not able to take advantage of the last break.
Those 2 pieces of wood are way out in front of the 7 and the 8, though. You never know what's going to happen. There you go.
My. It's a 9, and we will come down to the final 6 boxes, and the lead is still just 2 in this game. 4 overall for Paul Berger with 6 boxes to go on Stars and Strikes. Paul Berger with a 4-pin lead. 6 boxes to go in the match. Trying to make it 2 wins in a row. And Paul gets a nice break. Well,
at first it was.
It's better than the spread eagle.
That's
anyway.
right. It's better than what he had, but he's got a piece of wood out in front of the 3, 6, and 10 now. And I saw it deflected the ball immediately away from it.
Well, we've seen 3 boxes in a row now, 2 before the break by Dan LaPlume, and now this one where the bowlers got breaks on the first ball, but were not able to capitalize on them. Paul has still never trailed. Dan keeps catching up to him, but can't seem to pass him. Boy, you know, if Dan LaPlume were to win this match, and then he'd be back next week, and Dan Broder would be here, and I assume you'd be here too, so We'd be well over the federal limit, I believe, for
Dan's.
And there's a big spare for Paul Berger. Paul is still without a strike in this match, but he has 12 spares now. Oh, and another break for Dan LaPlume.
This time the 1 and the 3. Last time he kind of short-armed that time he got the ball out in front of him. Before he kind of short-armed it and left the ball to the left. It didn't break in for him. He's really got to have that extension, that follow-through with his delivery. Keep the ball the same angle that he normally throws it, and that's coming from left to right.
A little full, but he carries 7 to take the lead in the match. First time in 2 weeks that Paul Berger has been trailing.
I don't know if you can go to the left and carry the 4-7 and then the 10, or go where the 2 pieces of wood meet. It's going down low. That's what I was afraid of. It didn't touch that other piece of wood. You might have been better off going where the 2 pieces of wood meet.
Dan settles for the 10, leaving him at 75. So for the moment, he has a 3-pin lead in the match. But as you see, Paul Berger with a fill ball coming up. Oh, and there it is, strike number 1, and what a time for it.
You just had to know that was going to happen sooner or later, and you're just hoping before it did, you built up a sizable lead. This time he does clear that 4-pin. He's had a couple 9-pin drops leaving the 4. This time he's able to kick the 4-pin out of there.
Paul switching to a different ball again.
We're looking for the double strike ball. Yikes.
And that wasn't it.
Looked pretty good going in. 5, 7, 9, 10. 7, 8, 9, 10. Doesn't sound bad that way when you say it fast. Well, he clears out the triangle and gets an 8 fill on the strike. And he'll retake the lead. But Dan LaPlume is coming back all day long. He's got to do it one more time.
Nope. Dan will get the last at bat, but in this situation, he's got to try and get at least 1 mark up there to give himself a fighting chance for the last 2.
Right. Got to keep the lead in single numbers. Got to hurry. Gets it in there and see. Well, 5, 9, and 10. Yeah, you got to shoot for the 5-pin here, I believe.
Oh, he's got it maybe. No, I thought he had it.
Well, you saw by the expression, he put the ball where he wanted to. It just didn't happen for him at the other end of the lane. And the lead will now balloon up to 15.
But a mark right here would...
Now, this is a setup box. We always say the 8th frame.
Mark right here would put him in pretty good shape.
Because he's 2 marks away now, so you want to put one here because Paul doesn't have one, and then see what Paul does the 9th and 10th.
Crossing over, and he'll have a shot at one. The 2, 4, and 7.
Now, here's where you got to be real careful. You don't want to leave the ball short. In other words, you want that 2-pin. If you miss the 2-pin, you're probably going to miss the mark. Although with the wood, it could kick forward, but you want the 2-pin. Hurry!
Got it. Just got it.
Well, here we go, folks. Final 2 frames. The winner takes on Dan Broder next week.
Good-looking first ball from Paul Berger. He leaves the 5 and the 9. And makes it. Last week, Paul Berger closed out Joe Tavernese with 2 marks in the last 2. If he were to put up 2 marks here, he'd really put the pressure on Dan LaPlume.
Right, but I don't think he can shut him out unless he throws a double strike.
No.
Because Dan does have the mark working in the 8th, but he could make Dan mark out. Big ball for Paul Berger. Ooh, just 5. That opens the door a little wider for Dan.
Oh, but he made it.
That closes a little more for Dan.
Well, that may force Dan LaPlume to double strike, depending on what the fill is here. Anything more than a 3. And Paul drives it through the heart, but he carries 7, a 139. And Paul wraps up his day's work with a 393. Had a 383 last week. But he's just going to have to sit down and see if that's enough. Dan LaPlume will need to throw a double strike in here somewhere. Take it back. He does not have to.
He's got to keep marking.
Right, he does have to mark out.
And he couldn't make any mistakes on the fills. Now, that's a decent fill with the 8.
Oh, no.
Left that one a little short. Short arm that one a little bit. Didn't get the good extension. Didn't let the ball break as far to the right as it normally does. He's right on that one.
And now he'll need the double
Yes.
strike. Needs 27 pins in the last box. I take it back. He needs 29 pins.
29.
And that will do it. Paul Berger has made it 2 in a row. And we'll come back next week to face Dan Broder. Dan LaPlume makes the spare in the 10th. Throws his hands up as if to say, well,
That close.
Mark in the 9th, as well as a couple of other opportunities that he had earlier in the game. Got to be thinking about those right now. Dan's going to have a pretty good triple. And he throws the strike in the 10th, wouldn't you know. Gets 20. He needed 29. 375 for Dan LaPlume, or make it 385. And an 8-pin victory for Paul Berger. We'll be back with the bonus ball contest in a minute. We are back here on Stars and Strikes, and before we bring up the bowlers, Dan, an interesting match. It seemed to just be there for the taking for either bowler all the way through, and Paul Berger, who's done it so many times before here, managed to get it done again.
Both of them didn't seem to they crack at all. They just kept going back and forth, and it was the one who would take advantage of the mark or that extra mark, and you knew Paul Berger was going to throw a strike in this match someplace, and he got it at an opportune time, and then Stan still had a chance to beat him, but came up a little short.
All right, let's meet our two bowlers. First of all, a round of applause for Dan LaPlume. Dan will be taking home the fourth place check of $175. And Dan, I know we talked during the show that you're here a lot as a spectator and not as often as a bowler as I'm sure you'd like. But boy, it was there for you today. A check for you first of all before I forget. And boy, I heard you say as soon as we finished the match, the 2 7-pins. That's probably the first thing that came to your mind, right?
It sure did. It killed me right there. It just killed me. That's my hard shot, anyways. My very hard shot. And then when he threw that strike, I'm like, oh, I got to keep on marking. And that's all I can say. I lost by 8. It gave an exciting match.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure, I mean, any left-hander can relate to that 7-pin shot just like a right-hander on the 10-pin.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, that's my killer right there, the 7-pin. With wood, I'll do it. But without wood, I have a hard time. And then when I go for the 10, I get it no problem.
Pretty tough competitor, too. Tough to make any mistakes against this guy.
Oh, Paul, yeah. I mean, I had the lead, and then he threw. I think he threw the bomb and all that.
Yep.
And I marked, and then I made my mother happy. I finished with a spare strike at the end.
Well, you can say hi, Mom, then, I guess.
Yeah, hi, Ma.
Congratulations, Dan. Thanks very much. We appreciate it. It's good to see you again. And now Paul Berger with the bonus ball. This is Paul's. This is the toughest part of the show for Paul. The three strings are easy. This is the tough part. $110 in the jackpot here. Oh, see, he was a little tight there. He managed to throw the 7.
The 7s are good, though.
Let's see if we get a match for $110. Not a match. The card was 9 for Richard Lehman in Lowell, Mass. Richard expecting big things from you, Paul. His guess was 9, so the jackpot will go up to $120 next week, and you'll be back again next week. This match a little different than last week. You had to win this one several times, and again right at the end.
Dan never quit. He threw the ball well. He had a real loose ball. He had a lot of action, a lot of wood, and he didn't make many mistakes, and I was fortunate at the end to get two spares.
You had a lot of 9 drops in this match, and then you finally threw, as Dan said, the one strike that you did throw in a very good spot.
Yeah, I was beginning to wonder if there was a strike out there.
Well, next week we have Dan Broder coming in. I know you're very familiar with his game, and that should be a good one.
Yeah, he took me once before, so we'll see what we can do this
long
time.
memory. Okay. Thanks very much, Paul. Congratulations. We'll see you next week for the semifinals, and that should be a terrific match as we spin back over to the 5 bowlers who qualified for this series. Paul Berger and Dan Broder next week for the semifinal. That shapes up to be a pretty good one.
Oh yeah, they're never easy, you know. And Dan Broder is another bowler who's been here a number of times, so he's got the seasoning. But this fellow's got a little seasoning too.
That's correct. Well, we'll be back next weekend for that match. It should be a great one. Don't forget, Candlepin Skins at noon on Saturday from the Londonderry Bowling Center, and then noon on Sunday right back here for the semifinal match between Paul Berger and Dan Broder on Candlepin Stars and Strikes. Until then, for Dan Murphy and our whole Winds of New England crew, I'm Doug Brown. Have a great week, everybody. Thanks for being with us.